What's up, guys? Welcome back to another installment of Community Service Announcement. Now, this week we've got a very interesting guest for you. He goes by the name of Nikki Pop. He's actually a friend of mine, someone I've met, a fellow dancer. Is he better than me? We have to have that conversation. But Nikki is based in Ukraine at the moment. I thought it would be a great opportunity to have him on as a guest, to have a chance to not only speak about his journey as a person who's grown up with an American culture in Ukraine, but also bearing in mind what's happening at the moment with the wars and a lot of that really intense political climate at the moment. We thought it would be a great idea to have someone who's living this experience firsthand, and he gets a chance to not only speak his truth, maybe, if appropriate, counsel some myths, or at least to share his perspective on what is going on. I mean, he can't obviously speak for the whole of the country, but he can share what he's experiencing and what that's meant. And as well as speaking about some of the possible tragedies and the fact that it's a very difficult time for a lot of people in Ukraine, it's also an opportunity to talk about some of the positives that have kind of weirdly spun out of this situation. So we're going to go deep in this one. So welcome, Nikki Pop.
Welcome.
What's good, guys?
Excellent.
Straight from Ukraine.
Most definitely. Well, first of all, thank you. We know there's a massive, well, not a massive time difference, but there is a time difference. So I appreciate you staying up and doing this with us. The first question I think I'd want to ask before we go deeper into this is just, how are you feeling right now? And if you can, try to describe it in 3 words.
So I'm proud, motivated, and I don't know, full of energy.
Interesting.
At the moment, right now, if I say right now.
Okay. I don't know. I would have expected that. That's actually really interesting.
That's great.
Proud, motivated, and full of energy. Okay. I'm going to make a note of that one right there. So before we start getting into some of the nitty gritty, tell me a little bit about how you got into dance. I met you at an event in Amsterdam a couple of years ago. I believe it would have been 2018 or 2019. I can't remember.
So I started actually from graffiti. So basically, I'm a graffiti writer for more than like 12 years right now. So I started in my 5th class in school to do some sketches, play some video games about graffiti writing. And I started in my 5th class in school doing some sketches, playing some video games, hanging out with my friends, doing some like crazy stuff in our area, like just some dirty shit like tags, and then I was just continue to do it more like with more higher quality, I think. Start to do like full pieces, and then one of my friends who built first team with me for the graffiti, he had his first computer, and he had his YouTube access that time. And one day I came to his house, and he told me like for the whole evening where we will walk into his apartment, he was like, I'm gonna show you some crazy stuff, some crazy video. You need to see it. And it was 2009. And when we came to his apartment, he showed me the Mr. Wiggles in France with the red with the red look when he came up with the robot solo.
That's
where
right.
You can hear some Russian words of the robot, and it was crazy solo. Like I'm still sometimes rewatching it. So it was my first inspiration. So I got really inspired from this video. I start to just I would say fooling around with some like moves, kind of look like robot. And then I was going to center of Kiev, which is Krishchatik, is the main street in Kiev. And that time, every day you could see, like in the warm days, you could see street dancers there, where we're like busking there. And one day I saw popper from Ukraine, Ozone, and another popper from Ukraine called King Kola. Now he's not dancing. Ozone is still dancing, but King Kola is not. So Kinkola is I think, is the most craziest glides you could imagine.
Okay.
And I was really inspired by his footwork and also of moves from Ozone. But I couldn't even, come there. And I was really young. I was really shy.
I mean, for me, growing up, and again, I don't know, Ivan, for you, what was going on in England growing up for you? But for me, when I was super young, we had wars with Argentina. Late 80s, we were talking about the Gulf War. And then that got refined to more issues with, go scratch that a bit. We had issues with Ireland because of some of the history in Ireland. London and England used to get bombed a lot by
the IRA.
The IRA, like a rebel Irish group who wanted Ireland to have its independence. And then we had the Gulf War, which was based in the Middle East. And then it refined more to the things of Afghanistan. And then we saw the rise of Muslim terrorism. So what was the climate in Ukraine? Because I also was aware that when I growing up, we had the Soviet Union. And there was always this issue in the news. You'd always hear about Soviet Union as something that was not good, maybe the enemy. And I also understand that Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. So what was the political climate for you growing up, and what was your interpretation of it?
I can just say that climate was pretty intensive in 2000s. Like, for example, I remember Orange Revolution in Ukraine when we were trying to quit. The last president was connected so much to USSR feeling, USSR way of ruling, way of making some, mentality of USSR. And I would say we're still not fighting, but we are still trying to grow a new way of thinking here in Ukraine, and especially my generation and a little older generation, like people between 30, 40 years old. But older people, they are like, I would say they are too brainwashed, like after 40 years old, with USSR mentality. And
Right.
The second step was another revolution in 2014, which is Revolution of Dignity. Like that was on Maidan in Kiev again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there. I was there a couple days before shooting start, like the strikes start. And then I was helping after the hottest days. I was helping with volunteering, and that was the moment when people really start to wake up after USSR, and they were like, "Okay, we need to go to Europe, like for sure."
Interesting. So when you say dignity, what do you mean?
Like you can speak out. Like you can speak.
Okay.
You can speak out. You can have your opinion.
Like freedom of speech, basically.
Like
people start
freedom
opening
speech,
up.
Yeah, like basically democracy, basically democracy. But USSR also said that it was democracy kind of way, but it is not. It is not now because of the war happening right now. We have in some facts which are really crazy, and that was not democracy right there.
The point I was going to say, you said some really interesting things, and it sounds like from what you're saying, there was always, it feels like, well, at least from when you were born, there was always a kind of an undertone, a brewing political intensity. And the theme I'm hearing from you is there was a sense of wanting to break out. So, you mentioned that if you're particularly below 40s, they would have been undertaking a journey of, like you mentioned the word dignity, a sense of people being able to speak their truth without being stopped or without being restricted. Having said all of that right there, is it fair to say then that this military situation, this war that we're now seeing unfolding at this moment, it almost was a long time coming, or is there certain points that maybe I'm missing at this point in time?
This war, first is because one person don't understand why Ukraine is alive and why is there is a nation with other thinking, with other values, with trying to grow their own mentality out of USSR mentality, imperial mentality. Of course, we know who is that, yes, and this is we don't have to even say the name. He's not understanding why we are here and why we want to go where we want to go. The other thing is so we in Ukraine, actually, I would say many people were educated politically since years. Now when I'm listening what Russian people, even people who I know, they talk about, they're not educated political because they don't have information. Yeah, I understand. 8 years ago, I was 18. I was understanding what happened. Not completely in the actions. I know people who were really in the action. They were staying in the first line against the police there. And police had guns and people had just like a wooden, I don't know, wooden
shield.
sticks and that shield. Yeah, something like that. But I was just a graffiti guy dancing for 4 years, like trying to understand like what I want to do in my life. But I was understanding what's happening right now in my country, and I was against government that was that time. And I think because of biggest part of Ukraine were in the same kind of mood, in the same kind of like state of mind, we went out of the way to become back to USSR. Yeah, because our ex-president, which left Ukraine in 2014, which just escaped, ran away, he was an agent. Like he was an agent of Russia.
You're basically saying that person was placed there for a reason.
Thank you. So that person was placed just in case of like taking over the government state, and then just giving Ukraine in the big plate like this. And
so
that's it.
Infiltrating and then making decisions that are not for the best interests of Ukraine.
Yeah, for sure.
The next question I had for you was, you spoke about the fact that people in Ukraine, you've talked about how they were feeling. There was always an undertone that maybe, for example, the president before never had the interest of the Ukraine people at heart. He was there for other alternative agendas. I noticed, and Ivan, I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what you think as well. When I speak to artists generally, whether that's dancers, street dancers, any sort of expression, I find it easier to generally speak and have conversations in those communities that are quite holistic, where people are willing to look at different perspectives all at the same time. For yourself being a dancer and now entering into this wider dance community, how has that helped you to be able to navigate the wider narrative?
The first thing that helps me out I would say, to grow is traveling for sure. Because like first travel was like in 18 years old, straight in the year of revolution, the second revolution. I got chance to visit Oslo, Norway first. And then I came back. I was like kind of, wow, so this is really crazy how far it was. Like for me it was far because it was my first flight, and it was like straight ahead, like almost all the Europe, like 3 hours flight is almost whole Europe. So
that's right.
I was kind of shocked how people like were welcoming me as a Ukrainian, because Norway were like supporting Ukraine, and I had friend who was really supporting by his side, by his business side, by his many friends who were Norwegians. They were supporting Ukraine, and that made me a huge push to let me understand and learn other ways of understanding the reality.
Because it gives you a comparison, doesn't it? You get to see what you've lived, and then you get pushed into something quite different. There's a really good saying where they say, don't ask me where I studied, ask me where I traveled. Because a lot of the times just you being there, even just leaving the plane and going to get a snack in the shop, and someone says thank you, and you're like looking like, oh, okay, or they don't say thank you. You learn so much in a very short period of time just by the cleanliness. Go a place some like Japan, like there's no rubbish on the floor. It's, everything's itemized, there's vending machines everywhere. It's like a very different experience. So yeah, I see your point there. You traveling over from Ukraine, especially around that time, having seen what you've seen, and then like you're saying, being welcomed as well is quite an experience.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I was shocked that people are really in our situation. People are really welcoming us in Europe, and yeah, of course, there was a lot of people with USSR mentality, which are what wasn't welcome in there. And I know many stories, like even right now when refugees from Ukraine go into Europe and they acting like fools, you know, and people are like shocked. How is it possible to, you know, act like that when the war is in Ukraine?
You're fleeing a country and your behavior is bad.
There are people like that, like they've never been traveling and they don't have this like global mentality, like of just they don't know what is normal in Europe, what is not normal. Like this is also common.
I wanted to kind of move it forward and kind of bring it to the present day moment, because I know a lot of people will be interested to hear, okay, I'm speaking to someone from Ukraine who's in the country where there's a war right now. How is that experience for you? What is it? Well, again, some of us, me included, you know, might come with this very fairy tale version based on what we've seen about, for example, the Second World War. Planes flying over, bombs going off all the time, and you try to live a normal life in between. But what is the actual reality for you?
To jump through, like, I would say to people, don't accept from me, like, even you're gonna meet me, I will tell you like crazy story how rocket landed like next to my house or something like that. Like, if it would be even closer than I saw already, I would not talk about that, because I don't wish anybody even understand this kind of experience, you know.
Okay.
And just in fact that I can say how my feelings were changed, how it was transforming from one to another. 4 days before war, I was in panic. Like, I was really in panic. I was like this, basically, like this, because 120 case of troops were staying on the border. Like many publics and many journalists that I was watching that time, the whole year or two before the war, they were saying, it's not possible. And then even like 120k of troops in our border, and some of them were still saying, it's not possible in 21st century, like it's not possible. And then my father, he started to call me 4 days before the war. He was like, you should leave. Like, you should leave country, because then it will be problem for you to leave. And I was like, no, I don't want to leave. Like, I don't want to leave. And since this first call, I start to woke up early to get to check some news and stuff. And I was watching out of, like, from my window, and I'm living in really downtown of Kiev. And there was less and less people every day on the streets. Like, you can see some little traffic jam all the time, but there was even nobody in coffee shop, just few persons like in the front of my window. Then just this panic, it finished when we were packing on 24 February. I woke up 4:30 from loud like explosion, like sound of explosion, just like poof, like this. And I woke up and my cat was just sleeping. I was like, so nothing happened, you know. He's the sign.
Yeah, right.
Like, cat is the sign, you know.
Yeah.
So I was walking through my apartment, watching to my big windows, like 3 meters high, and I was like, okay, why so many lights in the houses? I was like, okay. I go back, and I went back. I was so sleepy. After 30 minutes, I got 10 calls from different people. And everybody, like, it started. They attacked airport. I was kind of becoming panic, and my girl Irina, she said, we have to make choice what we're gonna do. I start to call my parents, and then they said, okay, let's meet everybody just in one spot and conversate, and then leave maybe Kiev to Western Ukraine. And when we start to pack, I was like, okay, now I need to be like cool mind to get all the stuff that I need really right now, because many people were packed already before 1 week. Some of them 2 weeks before.
Right, yes, yeah.
And I saw these people, when I was packing, I saw these people already going to their cars and leaving Kiev. So when we left Kiev, traffic jam was so crazy.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
was like 100 kilometers we were passing by 9 hours, something like that. In almost every village already, until evening, there was already blog posts everywhere. They were organized so crazy. They already were searching for diversants, for people, the agents who's trying to do sabotages and all this kind of stuff.
Really? What you said? People were looking for them.
Yeah. They were searching like every car, like asking your documents, talking to you on Ukrainian, if you could speak Ukrainian. Russians, they can't speak Ukrainian. This is the thing. Like, if you're really educated in Ukrainian, you can speak. I think only high military people, like agents and some kind of people like that, can speak Ukrainian. Like, they learned for sure for some kind of missions.
I think it would be similar to us in England if someone came from France. Maybe we would hear the accent straight away, even if they tried to speak English.
Definitely. But yeah, back to my feelings. So it was first maybe 2 weeks. It was more anger and sadness, And then
who was you angry at?
I was angry about this situation. I was angry also about the decision that our government, they say that there is a low chance that the war gonna happen.
Right.
And then they let people know that they knew about it. They knew even the date close to like one day that is gonna start, and they don't let people know. And many people struggling like at the moment about it. But I'm accepting this. I'm agree with this because the panic could be huge as we can't imagine.
So if I understand it, what you're saying is you're accepting to that you're bringing yourself back to a place of calm because you know that if you actually allow the other side to take over, it's almost dangerous for yourself.
So it was acceptation. Yeah. Now I pass it also, and now I'm really motivated, as I said in the beginning of the conversation. Do what I have to do what universe want from me. And I born not to take a gun and to go to, to the war, to army, to the first lines. Yeah, of course, if the universe will bring me, for sure, like I will do it. But right now I'm understanding my place here. I'm understanding why I'm here. I'm understanding what I have to prove, what I have to say, what I have to share, and so on. And the best gift is to have my family safe, have my love with me, have my cat with me, I don't know, and have my art, have my art inside of me, because nobody can take it out. People can destroy your house, people can do anything that, war is crazy, for sure, people can do physically something with you.
Can I take it down a route and maybe ask a question? Zelenskyy, and from my point of view, from what I've seen, the way that social media has portrayed the things that he's doing in terms of going to hospitals to give people medals for fighting, standing in front of Congress and saying it as it is, being quite outspoken about the support he's receiving or not receiving. Do you think that, what's your overall opinion about him and just the image that he's portraying? And, is he, because again, people can laugh about the fact that he was, everyone in Europe heard about and around the world how he was a comedian and, the way he was looked at in that way. But in some ways, it almost feels like he's really even if he's faking it till he makes it, he feels like he stepped into a role, and maybe he's that wild card where they just didn't expect him to do so well. But what's your opinion from being there about him and the things that he's doing and the way he's portraying himself, or he's being portrayed on social media?
Interesting.
So you said about that he was comedian, etc. But we have a serious film when he's playing a president. that he's a teacher who's playing a president.
Just to be clear, you said he was in a film as
Yeah.
a school teacher preparing to be the president.
He was president there. The teacher who
In the
was
film, that's crazy,
president.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can send you. Yeah, I can
This
send
sounds
you.
to me, hearing you say that, this sounds like something that would happen more in Russia with propaganda than it would sound the other way around. This is really unusual because I didn't.
Yeah,
expect that.
but the thing is, Zelensky as a person, because I read a lot about him, and I watch a lot of his interviews. I'm interested in how he's as a person and how he's acting. I mean, acting as a person,
Himself, yeah.
So he's like, I would say, one of the best managers in the globe right now.
Okay.
He's managing political game, like military game, and also giving that what people need right now. These three aspects, for sure, like in the complex, they are crazy, but in the worst situation, they're crazy like 10 times, you know?
Yes.
X10, you know?
I guess as you're saying that, I'm now thinking about the people, because now what you're talking about is a president rising to the occasion and people seeing a side of him that maybe they wasn't expecting to see or they didn't know. From a local's perspective, have you seen anything similar? You always hear whenever, for example, there's trouble, you always hear the stories about how this, like, I don't know, 9/11, you talk about your heroes, your local heroes, that one person that went up to the 5th floor and rescued this lady by himself. He shouldn't have done it, he did it. Are you seeing or are you hearing stories like this where you're seeing maybe the community are having to pull together, they're having to organize, or they're supporting people that are a bit more vulnerable? What kind of stuff have you seen, or at least have you heard?
I can say definitely, and I would say like giving shout out to Explosion Team is a dance community from Cherkasy. Basically, it's now a global community in Ukraine, but the main guy is Maximus from Cherkasy city. He's pretty close to regions where strikes right now. And from the first day, he organized global foundation that like people around the globe can donate there. And he was sending money from the, like, I don't know, 3rd or 4th day of the war to those who need leave Ukraine or pay ticket or pay their food. And, you know, because there was a lot of speculations about like, if you don't have a car and you want to leave Kiev, it would cost you like 400 euro to go to West, and when you come into the West to rent apartment, which is like maybe normal time is 250 euro, now it's maybe 1,000 euro, something like that. All being said about Maximus, like he's really crazy because his studio is a kind of like bomb shelter right now.
Right.
But studio is keep working and he's keep teaching classes there, and people can sleep there. They have a lot of food there.
Wow.
He's caring about this huge foundation, which now has more than, I think, 30,000 USD, something like that. And he become a Red Cross member in the first week of the war. Like, he's really community builder, and I would say like biggest shout out right now to him because he organized people really well. And there is another b-boy community in Kharkiv that I know, East Side B-boys. He's doing charity breaking classes in the metro, in subway station for people who living already for 55 days in subway station.
That's like during the war, the person with the harmonica, you know, the person in the tube stations where, you know, and we were talking about, do you remember we were talking about arts and we were talking about just that creativity and how that helps? You know, back in the day when there was, during the wars, the older wars, you know, people didn't have mobile phones and stuff. Everyone read the same newspaper, but that one person who could sing, who knew songs, who could play harmonicas and even just tap on. He
was like saying,
you know, that was what that does for people at times, like you said, 50 days underground or having to sleep underground. You know, that's massive. And the fact that they're able to raise funds for people as well is just crazy. I want to give you an opportunity now to kind of like if people imagine people listening to this podcast now, is there anything that you kind of want a point that you would like to get across to them? You know, is there any kind of maybe frustrations of the way, or kind of there's a way that you would like people to, when they think of the war that's going on, a way that you think that they should kind of, you know, maybe like Alex said at the start, break some myths of what people are thinking. But is there any kind of frustrations, any thoughts that you've got that you think this is a great opportunity to put it out there for people to hear?
So, yeah, thank you so much for sure. I would say that, okay, even right now, I know there is like, because I work with therapists, I'm recommending to people, especially who gonna listen me, that had experience with war, like that had some kind of like maybe they're sensitive about some content, or they have I don't know, even bad dreams. You know, they have to work on it for sure, because I was really close to get really problems with my health. You know, with
mental health.
Yeah, with my mental health and my decisions that I could make. You know, out of this feelings, out of this like reactions. So a lot of people have you know, this survivor syndrome right now. Like when you survive, so if you are a survivor, even you haven't been in Ukraine, you are not in Ukrainian even. I know people like that. I know many people like that. To these people, highly recommending to work here with therapists, and highly recommend to filter news, of course, and talk more with locals. Like if they're really like sensitive and they want to know information, really not be scared to talk to locals. Like you can write me, you can write, I mentioned Maximus, he's really explaining situation and giving a lot of speeches really clearly, but he's posting sensational content. Like so it's still, you have to filter, you know, because a lot of stuff, like even you can see from content of our president on his page, like he's posting a lot of stuff that can get you into like,
it can cause you distress.
Yeah, it can bring you to distress, and that will be a problem for you. Yeah, for work day or whatever you do. You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think one of the sentiments that I've noticed is that I've had people around me say, oh, I can't look at the news anymore. I can't look at it. It's too bad. It's too bad. And I feel like in this day and age, it's so easy to get hold of that information. And I think we talked before we click record that sometimes it's put in front of you at times that you don't even expect. Maybe at your most vulnerable time, like in the morning when you've just woken up, you know, you want to see sunshine and rainbows. Now, you know, you don't want to see people being attacked and hurt. But then obviously there's that balance, and your responsibility as a person to be in touch with the news and what is going on around you. And one good tip that I do myself is that whenever I'm looking into something, I make time to look into something if I'm actually bothered about it. So like if I see something in myself where I'm like, okay, this is worrying me, now it's the time to go and take that time to look into it. But I like the point that you made there, where it's not just running to the news to see those images and then be like, oh, that's horrible, turn it off. Like you were saying with Maximus, it's like, look at the content that he's creating that's in Ukraine on the ground, and kind of get that kind of a different view on it. And I like the idea of that, seeing it from on the ground and what people are creating there, opposed to just going to the newspapers where it's sensationalized. And I also like the idea of you saying about it being sensitive as well, that it can be quite difficult for people. But you definitely need to talk to people if you truly want to understand what is going on.
My take from what you've just said there, from that answer as well, is two things really. First of all, I mean, thank you for sharing what you've said in a very personal perspective. You know, I really respect that, and I really hope that different people can take something away from that. Now, also because you're living in a country where this is happening, some people may say, well, I get it. Of course he's going to feel like this. Of course he's going to want to speak on it in that way. But I think what I've also liked about what you've said is that you've also been able to understand that even if you're not you're not living in the war, just the sheer pressure of just taking in this. Because I think for a while there was a mass panic around the world because the narrative was World War III. And then so a lot of people's concern and panic was probably coming from maybe a more selfish perspective. Then when they realized, okay, maybe at least for now, it doesn't look like it's a World War III situation, then people started to fall back a little bit. Maybe people wasn't showing as much interest. People were now going back to their normal routine. However, there's something about when you're taking in a lot of constant negative information, whether you're living it or whether you're seeing it and reading about it, we are all absorbing some of this into our psychology, into our skin, and we don't realize how much it's causing pressure. And I also feel, as you've rightly said, even just me like talking to you about this, listening to some of your stories, I think this also helps people like myself to process this crazy, larger than life situation, as well as hopefully I'd like to think that people like yourself and others who are experiencing it, just by being able to have a voice to tell people in the outside world, listen, this is my story, that we're both getting something from this. And I think it's really sings the whole idea about we really, as a wider community in the world, we need to talk. We don't need to read a newspaper to get our source of information. We need to find people around us and say, how is this impacting you? What am I learning from this? How are you feeling? How am I feeling? And as you mentioned, survivor's guilt. Just because I'm not part of this, I feel helpless. Okay, but what do I do with this energy? I want to help. How can I help? Or, okay, I don't feel like I can help, but what else can I do to show my support? These sorts of conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I've got a last question for you. This is a self-reflective one. With what's happened, life has changed massively for you and for many people right now living in Ukraine and around. I mean, the world has changed, to be honest with you. What have you learned about yourself in these last couple of weeks, especially, maybe that you didn't know?
Now I know my people for sure. Well, I learned about real relationship between friends, between family members, how it should be in real, how it should be in this kind of situations, because this is where the realness is showing off, This is the first one. The second one, I think, I learned about myself that I was kind of too materialistic. I understand that I want to become more into minimalism way of living, for sure. Of course, I'm a dancer. I love clothes. I love shoes. But this is not build you up, But also, I know that now I'm going to invest first to myself, for sure.
Yeah.
Then to my people. And then it's going to build our relations. Then it will help to get out of any kind of problems, like any kind of situations. Because then you know what you know, then you know what this guy is, like what he can do, like what he can give you as advice, can do for you, and what is your relationship with this person. This is important.
Amazing. And from my perspective, I think it's also important to hear that when I first got to know you, you were somebody who, because you achieved the level of dance that you did, you was an advocate for the culture in Ukraine. You were very interested in getting that knowledge and bringing it back to the country. But understand that really what you're talking about is you're evolving as a teacher. You're realizing that your teaching is not just about the skills or
student forevermore,
but also that actually your lessons and what your ability to bring back now is beyond the dance. It's about life. It's about navigating this, and the dance fits into that bigger picture. But the bigger picture is now it's about developing yourself as a person. So see this in a very uncomfortable and very difficult way. See this as an evolution for you, and it's probably a very important evolution for you. So I'd encourage you to keep growing, even when it gets difficult. And, again, thank you for doing an incredibly powerful thing sharing what you've shared with us. And I really hope that rings home and rings true or resonates with other people in some way. I've definitely taken a lot, and in the time that I've known you, I've definitely learned a lot about you that I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just want to say thank you for sharing.
Too, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Ivan, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
Just obviously, you're hearing it on the news, you're seeing everything, but to hear someone from straight from the horse's mouth almost is quite surreal. I just want to say thanks for not it's some people jump to the sensationalized stories where, rockets landed here and this did there, but to be able to get a perspective from someone who's just a little bit more grounded in their thinking is just so nice, opposed to what you see on TikTok and things like that. So, it was nice to paint a picture, and I like the idea that we started off where you talked about graffiti and the things you enjoyed and music and stuff like that. And then we painted that picture. So I hope anyone listening got a good idea and something that's a little bit different to what they're seeing on everyday news. I hope they enjoyed that. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing what you did.
Yeah,
Wicked.
Thank you guys for giving chance. Yeah, I would say just maybe not last words.
Don't.
Famous last words. Yeah.
I'm actually I'm not pessimistic person, but I'm living right now under air alarms every day, 2-3 times a week.
I'm hearing
2-3 times a day. Sorry.
I'm hearing yeah, I'm hearing
2-3 times a day, and you see, keep posting my training stuff and keep teaching world classes online, private classes online, worldwide. Starting my Patreon soon, and trying to build out. Just keep following Ukrainian dancers. We need your support. We need your attention. We need attention not only to the war, but still to our artistry. We trying to inspire. We are getting still inspired. Continue your thing. You don't have to consider yourself and just pushing your energy to watching news and this kind of stuff. You can just talk to us, and we're gonna win. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini.
All right. What a great way to end that. Thank you so much.
Big up. Nice. And also, guys, make sure you subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, we've got more content like that on its way through.
And importantly, leave some comments down below. If there's any feedback you want to give us about the show, if there's any questions that you have for Nikki, I'm sure he can pop in and Nikki pop in and answer any questions in the YouTube comments. So let us know if there's anything you want to ask us. So until next time, thank you so much.
Wicked.
Go.
Cool.